The San Antonio Spurs started this season like a team without a plan, and Victor Wembanyama got roasted for spending too much time on the perimeter. You've probably heard the experts tell him over and over again, stop trying to be KD.
The other thing about guys like Kevin Durant and Dirk is they were 40% shooters. They were some of the best shooters that happen to be 7 feet. He has to improve his shooting percentage. That will help that.
Indeed, Wemby and the Spurs had a slow start to the season, but things have changed. Wemby is averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks per night, including a jaw-dropping 50-point performance against the Wizards. And now, we're starting to realize that the Spurs not only have a plan, but that plan is brilliant. Here's why. A 7'4" Wemby come from being skinny. So far, it's clear that Wemby's play style this season is a little different from his rookie season. He's hanging around the perimeter a lot more for his height, and many experts are not happy about this.
He's struggling. You know why? Because at 7'5", you get Chris Paul, you gotta get in the paint.
Wemby's been attempting a staggering 9.3 three-pointers per game, and that's up from just 5.5 last year. That leap puts him in the league's top 10 for attempts, a territory usually reserved for sharpshooting guards and wings. Combine the fact that naturally he shouldn't be doing this with the fact that this is just his second season, then it's no surprise that he started out cold, shooting just 23% from 3. The critics were quick with the criticisms, but this was no random experimentation. You see, while those three-point attempts grabbed headlines, Wemby quietly improved his rim shots from 70% last season to 84%, while hitting 35.4% of his long-range attempts. So, instead of being a 7.5-foot player who's only effective inside the paint, they're crafting him into a player who could be deadly anywhere on the court. But how are the Spurs doing this? You see, the Victor Wembanyama we saw as a rookie was already incredible, but his role was simpler. He focused on finishing plays, hitting the occasional jumper, and acting as a towering role man. Although he excelled, there were limits. The team's playmaking largely revolved around others, meaning Wemby often had to wait for opportunities instead of creating his own. But now, it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, you can see we went to him a lot more tonight. You know, made him a focus offensively for the minutes he played. I think he played 21. So, you know, we're learning where he wants the ball and where he feels most comfortable. And the other guys are learning how to cut around him. You know, we had some good cuts out on the court, and he finds those people. So
it now seems like the training wheels are off. Now, he's taking the step-back threes and making drives to the paint. His confidence as a creator is growing, and so is his efficiency. But part of this evolution comes down to the Spurs' moves off the court. The addition of Chris Paul has been a huge boost, as well as rookie guard Stephon Castle, and the results have been crazy. Over the last 7 games, Wemby's been hitting over 40% of his three-point attempts, and it got better in the game against the Wizards, where he recorded 50 points, scoring 8 of his 16 three-point attempts. Now we're starting to realize that this was a part of the Spurs' grand design. They were building a player who could eventually combine the precision of a sharpshooter with the dominance of a traditional big man. But it even gets worse, because Wemby's still out here wreaking havoc on the other end of the floor. His ability to exploit mismatches is borderline unfair. Put a traditional big man on him, he'll blow by them with guard-like quickness. Switch a smaller defender onto him, that's a one-way ticket to Dunk City. However, the question is, can he continue to get better at all this? You see, the Spurs aren't just developing Victor Wembanyama, they're crafting a blueprint for the future of basketball. They're not building around the player Wemby is now, they're building around the player he could become. That's why Pop gave Wemby the green light to keep shooting even when he was hitting bricks. One thing we must understand is that Wembanyama's skill set is so unprecedented that traditional development paths don't apply. To understand what the Spurs are doing, it's worth drawing a parallel to another chosen one, LeBron James. In his early days with the Cavs, LeBron too was a poor shooter, with a career-low 29% from three-point range. Yes, he was athletic and fast, but his passing and basketball IQ still had to be developed. Wemby's journey is shaping up to be just as ambitious, if not better, and his potential isn't confined to one aspect of the game. It's multifaceted. He can dominate inside like Shaquille O'Neal, shoot from deep like Dirk Nowitzki, and defend like a hybrid of Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green. In fact, few players in NBA history, if any, have ever posed a legitimate threat in both areas. Wemby's near-basket play is already amazing, boasting a 75% conversion rate in the restricted area. Now, imagine pairing that with a consistent three-point shot. If Wemby can sustain his 40% efficiency while continuing to exploit mismatches near the rim, he won't just redefine the role of big men, he'll force opposing coaches to rewrite their entire defensive playbooks. But let's not crown him just yet. There are still some holes in his game. For starters, he needs to bulk up and be able to hold his ground against more physical players. His post game, while effective, isn't polished enough to be a go-to option in crunch time. Then, there's his mid-range and ball handling. While Wemby's mechanics suggest he has the potential to dominate in these areas, there's still a work in progress. But perhaps the greatest challenge Wemby faces isn't on the court. It's in the court of public opinion. Being labeled a generational talent is both a blessing and a burden. Every missed shot, every off night is completely scrutinized, especially in the era of social media hot takes. But can Wemby rise above it and carry the Spurs with him? While Wemby is undeniably the centerpiece of the Spurs' long-term plans, his growth is also tied to the team's present dynamics. With the presence of guys like Chris Paul, San Antonio has been better in clutch moments when compared to last season. And speaking of the team's actual performance, yes, they're far from title contenders, but their current record suggests a team that's quietly making progress. Playoff aspirations might still be a stretch, but the foundation for future success is being laid brick by brick. But then again, the Spurs' master plan for Victor Wembanyama isn't without risk. The dream would be for Wembanyama to evolve into a one-of-a-kind player, blending his dominant inside presence with elite shooting from deep. I mean, just imagine prime Shaq, the shooting prime Steph, and basketball IQ of Jokic, while keeping his defensive prowess. Man, that would be some GOAT-level talent. And yes, he's already on that trajectory.
More total points than LeBron, more blocks than the King.
Say it again.
And he's hit more threes than Steph Curry.
They're not listening.
So more total points than LeBron in that 100 game.
100 games.
100 career games. More blocks than the King in that 100 games. And more Stephs than Curry. Or more threes than Steph Curry in that 100 games. Host fuck up to it. Host fuck up to it.
Think he's gonna get better?
Yeah. Yeah, we could stand to reason.
Okay.
He is French, though.
So the trajectory, you think about actually calculating math.
Okay.
Trajectory looks like he's gonna surpass pretty much everybody.
There's no doubt that if the Spurs gamble pays off, they'll have a player who redefines the entire concept of what a big man can be. But let's say the experiment, and yes, he
They're not listening. They're not listening.
In that 100 game,
he defines the entire concept.
They're not listening. They're not listening.
He defines the entire With Wembanyama's every missed three-pointer and every awkward step back, he's getting better. And make no mistake, this isn't just about developing a superstar. This is about staying ahead of the curve in a league that's consistently evolving. As the NBA continues to move toward positionless basketball, where versatility is king, Wemby might just take the crown. But what do you think? Do you think the Spurs plan can work? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, click the video on the screen to watch the first unicorn of the NBA before aliens like Wemby showed up.